Emirates Flight 407, which was supposed to connect Melbourne to Dubai, was expected to be a smooth adventure. On board an Airbus A340 fully loaded, nearly 300 souls were preparing for a 14-hour journey across the skies. Many were eager to experience the warmth of Dubai after a long trip from Auckland, New Zealand. However, what should have been a routine flight quickly turned into an aviation nightmare, triggered by a critical human error in the cockpit. That night, on March 20th, 2009, a terrifying incident would put the lives of passengers and crew to the test. A peaceful and promising departure. It was around 10 p.m. when 257 passengers and 18 crew members boarded at Melbourne Airport. Among them were families, business people, and even solo travelers, all fueled by the excitement of the journey. The flight conditions were ideal, with a clear sky and pleasant temperature. The 5-year-old Airbus A340, known for its safety, was ready to depart. To ensure a long flight, 4 pilots were present, allowing crew members to take turns during the trip. This was part of the safety protocols, ensuring that the crew remained alert and capable of responding to any eventuality. A decisive mistake in the cockpit. As passengers took their seats and cabin staff performed final checks, the pilots were preparing for departure. The captain, with over 8,000 flight hours, and his co-pilot, with about 425 hours on the same model, believed they were in complete control of the situation. However, during the weight data verification, a serious mistake crept into the calculations. The relief co-pilot, distracted by conversations with ground engineers, input an incorrect takeoff weight, 262.9 tons instead of the planned 361.9 tons. No one realized this oversight, and this negligence would have dramatic consequences. The chaotic takeoff. At 10:30 p.m., Flight 407 was cleared for takeoff. As the plane surged down the runway, the pilots adjusted the flaps and pushed the throttles to full power. However, at rotation speed, the drama began. The captain instructed the co-pilot to rotate the aircraft. But despite all their efforts, the nose of the plane remained glued to the ground. What should have been a safe flight was turning into a race against time as the pilots realized something was wrong. A dangerous flight into the unknown. In a last-ditch effort, the captain activated maximum thrust, but the aircraft, trailing 20 knots below the necessary speed, violently struck the runway. Sparks flew as the fuselage scraped the pavement. Inside, passengers, initially calm, began to panic as they smelled burning metal. Seconds ticked by, and the risk of an imminent catastrophe was palpable. Screams of fear echoed, while worried glances were exchanged. Each second seemed to last an eternity, heightening the surrounding stress and anxiety. The life-saving jolt. Against all odds, the plane finally lifted off the ground, but not without exceeding the end of the runway by 148 meters. Unfortunately, significant damage had already been inflicted. As they gained altitude, a tail strike warning appeared, indicating serious structural damage. A return to Melbourne was inevitable, and the tension was at its peak. The crew faced major challenges, both technically and psychologically, as they tried to reassure passengers while managing the critical situation. An explosive emergency. The flight, now overloaded with 130 tons of fuel, needed to reduce its weight before considering landing. The crew decided to fly over Port Phillip Bay to dump fuel, a delicate maneuver that required great precision. It was then that the co-pilot, realizing the extent of the initial mistake, was overwhelmed by stress and anxiety. But there was no time for regret. The situation worsened when the aircraft lost cabin pressure, rendering the plane unstable. The passengers' previously serene faces now showed fear as the cabin crew tried to maintain calm. The dramatic landing, declaring an emergency, the crew quickly prepared for landing. The captain, with a firm voice, warned passengers about the delicate situation, asking them to prepare for a possible evacuation. As the aircraft began its descent, a whirring noise caught the pilot's attention. Smoke was emanating from a compartment, indicating a possible fire on board. Emergency services were alerted, and the landing was expedited. Passengers' thoughts turned to their loved ones as everyone tried to brace for the unpredictable. A breathless finale. At 11:04 p.m., Flight 407 landed just in time on runway 34, stopping just meters from the end. Rescue teams already on site quickly confirmed that there was no fire. Fortunately, no passengers were injured, but the adrenaline was still running high. Inspections revealed considerable damage to the rear of the fuselage, but this seemed trivial compared to the scale of the chaos that could have occurred. The release of tension was palpable, with passengers exhaling a collective sigh of relief, and some even hugging each other, grateful to have survived. Conclusion: lessons from the sky. The subsequent investigation highlighted two main causes of this traumatic experience: the failure to detect the weight error before takeoff and the late detection of performance issues. This incident serves as a reminder of the importance of vigilance and rigor in operational procedures for flight safety. The lessons learned from this experience are essential to prevent such a tragedy from occurring again. Passengers, now aware of the invisible risks surrounding them in flight, became conscious of the importance of safety protocols. A story of thrills, adrenaline, and an unexpected return to solid ground, showcasing the challenges pilots face in the sky and human resilience in the face of adversity.